I'm about to set off with my shot. Knock the head off with my shot. And bring it along with my shot. Look, I'm running with my shot. I'm about to set off with my shot. Knock the head off with my shot. Then bring it along with my shot. Isn't that don't feel the motherfucking G shit?
Peace. Coming back at you with part 2, you heard me? To the Robert Charles episode, you heard me? Right here, you know what I'm saying? As the story continues, it says the Back to Africa affiliation. Intelligent and well-read, according to those who knew him. Charles did convey his feeling on certain racial matters before his death. Charles was beside himself with fury after reading an account of the public torture of lynchings in April of 1899 of a black man in Georgia, accused of rape and murder, and committed. One acquaintance said that the time had come for every black man to prepare to defend himself, and he clipped and kept in his pocket a newspaper account of a gathering in April 1900 in the St. James Parish, where one speaker suggested armed revolution in response to the crushing defeat to dictatorial election returns of an alliance of Republicans and populists that included black voters. In 1896, Charles joined the International Migration Society, a group that promoted sending African Americans to Liberia, and in the summer of 1899 he became a New Orleans subscript agent for the magazine Verse of Missions, which promoted the Back to Africa cause. But Charles' promotional work was done in a low-key manner. His sentiments were expressed privately. Employees and others saw him as a quiet and unobtrusive. A white tailor who sold him clothes called him a stylish Negro who seemed fairly well educated. Until July 23, 1900, Charles hadn't come to the attention of New Orleans police. On that night, a Monday, Charles and his younger roommate, Leonard Pierce, was seated on the steps of a white family home at the 2815 Drive Street at 11 p.m., apparently waiting for a chance to tap on the window of a nearby apartment occupied by 2 black women, when 3 police officers approached and asked what they were doing. Charles carried a pistol in his coat pocket, as was the custom of many men of the day. The figure in both Charles stood up. He was immediately grabbed by the patrolman, Augusta Mora, smaller in size, and struggled began. I grabbed him, the Negro pulled out, but I held fast, and he finally pulled me into the street. Mora later recalled, here I began using my belly club, and the Negro jerked from my grasp and ran. He then pulled out a gun and fired. I pulled my gun and returned fire, each of his firing about 3 shots. Mora later conceded that he had in fact drawn his pistol first. Another officer patrolman, Joseph Cantrell, also fired at Charles. One of Charles' shots hit Mora in the right thigh, and another grabbed his fingers. As a bullet fired by one of the officers went through an upper section of Charles' right leg, and he held profusely as he escaped, running in a zigzag pattern. Pierce, trembling in fear, remained in police custody. Alright? Shooting continues. Charles found his way back to his apartment, one of several units in a 2-story house of 2023 4th Street. There he dressed his wound, got his Winchester rifle, and waited. About 3 a.m., 4 hours after Charles' encounter with police, Captain John T. Day and a few other officers, after apparently getting in the address from Pierce, approached an outdoor blank walkway until which doors of the apartment to the 4th Street building opened. They dismissed a warning from a white bystander that he should be carefully, saying, "Oh, sir, I'll go and take that nigger myself," and entered the walkway first. As officers approached Charles' apartment, room number 4, Charles' door opened, and he fired a bullet from his rifle into Day's heart. Trailing officers froze, stunned. Charles fired more shots at Day as he laid on the ground, then turned and shot patrolman Peter J. Lamb through the head. Both died instantly. 2 other officers in the walkway took refuge in another apartment. They later were fired on charges of cowardice, while others ran for help. Before more police and an angry white mob could gather, Charles slipped away, finding refugees on Saratoga Street. As the police department and law enforcement authorities in neighboring parishes hunted frenetically for Charles, white mobs at the time, numbering in the thousands, vented their rage toward virtually any black citizen they could find. Innocent black people were dragged off streetcars or attacked in their houses, shot and viciously beaten. It took a show of force by police officers with rifles to keep the mob from storming the parish prison and lynching Pierce, who was held on a charge of attempted murder of a police officer. The charge was later dropped. Hundreds of citizens who were volunteered as special police officers helped curb the anarchy, but the mob action continued off and on for 4 days. One mob led by a shotgun-toting man with one leg announced it wanted to burn an entire square block of black people's homes and shoot inhabitants as they fled. Discovering it didn't have enough guns to carry out the massacre, the mob instead burned a school for black students on 7th Street. One named in honor of Tony LaFont, a Creole color who had donated generously to the improvement of education for white and black people. Among several local white-run newspapers, only the items strongly opposed mob violence had research shows. The Times Democrat blamed the Negroes as a class for the actions of the outlaws of their own race. The States and an editorial hated Negro murderers spoke of a severe uprising, threat, and said, "We know not, it seems, what hellish dreams are rising underneath. We know not what schemes of hate and arson of murder and rape are being hatched in the dark depths." Alright? The dramatic conclusion. Okay? The discovery of Charles' hideout on Friday, July 27, just after 3 p.m. brought the week of violence on to a dramatic end. Just as he had at his apartment, Charles started his shooting hitting in a closet. He gunned down 2 officers who were following up on a tip that led them to 1208 Saratoga Street. Sergeant Gabriel Porteous, one of the band of officers who had halted the mob at Parish Prison, was shot in the heart and died almost instantly, while Captain John F. Lally was fatally wounded, hit in the abdomen. As police in the new mob of armed white men gathered, was believed that Charles had slipped away again, but he was quietly waiting in the house second floor with his Winchester and a pile of bullets. At 3:45 p.m. he announced his presence by leaning out of a window and shooting to death a 19-year-old white man, hitting him in the hip and heart. In the wild scene that ensued, bullets fired by police and more than 100 men, many of them climbing atop nearby buildings for a better line of fire, appeared the house where Charles darted from window to window, firing and reloading. His aim was remarkable, especially considering the lopsided firefight. Of the estimated 50 shots fired by Charles, he apparently didn't use his revolver. 27 found a human target. Charles' death came at 5 p.m. when a fire set on the house bottom floor smoked him out. Wearing a brown derby and holding his rifle at shoulder length, he dashed out of a door and ran towards an adjacent residential building. He was hit by a rifle shot. The shooter is unknown. As he approached the building and then falling in the doorway, was shot repeatedly by Charles A. Norrat, a medical student who had been aided to a force of special police. Charles' lifeless body then was shot repeatedly by a drone of police, and amid victorious whoops was dragged into the muddy street, where it was shot, kicked, and poked by a friendly crowd. Some wanted to set it on fire, but police tossed the body into a patrol wagon and hauled it quickly to the morgue. An autopsy of Charles' mutilated body documented at least 37 holes caused by gunfire. Fearing that many still wanted to burn Charles' body and slice it into souvenirs, police and a militia squad took it from the morgue in the pre-dawn hours of Sunday, July 29, 1900, hauled it to the Polish Field Halt Cemetery near City Park, and buried it at an unmarked location. Alright? And I'm going to show you the pictures of these officers, these crackers that this brother laid out right here, you know what I'm saying? That's the victims right there of his episode, you know what I'm saying? So it took a whole mob to stop one freedom fighter like that, you know what I'm saying? This long forgotten history, dig, that I had to bring back for you. So, peace.